Hi there, folks. Simon here. This is the 2022 TAC Championship. And yes, this is the finals between Ali and alion02. We can see here their previous games in the bracket here on ustac.org. We have the first game won by Ali with a road, and the second game won by alion02 by flats. Now we've still got 4 games to play. Today we're going to be playing games 3 and 4. And as you can see here, we're starting with alion02 in white and Ali in black. And that's what we're going to be looking at in just a few minutes. And if you're unfamiliar, these games are played on a 6x6 board, and the time limit is 15 minutes on the clock with a 15-second increment. And we are playing these with 2 komi, meaning that if the game does not end in a road, 2 is added to black's flat count score. And that is basically it. The winner of this entire match, of this 6-game series, will win the title of TAC champion for 2022 and 2023, since we had to do this for 2 years. So without any further ado, let's jump right in to game 3 of alion02 versus Ali. And we did see opposite corners here right off the bat. And then going straight into the Knight's opening. This is Ali's favorite way to counter the Knight's opening. This is also alion02's favorite way to counter the Knight's opening if he's not doing the hug. So this is interesting to see that play right away. I know Will, who plays with alion02 a lot, also does that same thing. So interesting play here. I think this is a very risky move for Ali, because what he's doing is he's separating all of his flats away from where white is building this action. And white does have momentum here at the very beginning. Okay, so black's decision to stop that from being too strong is to just drop the capstone right there. It's interesting play here, because we typically see in something like the mirrored opening, their flats will be right next to each other, and then that capstone will drop to be able to come up. This is very different because the flats are separated. It's as if black wants to try and build a road down here completely separate from white's action, which we've seen happen in these finals before. I think with Ali, maybe even with Ali and maybe with these guys in game 1 or something. But it is a very, very risky move to go for this. And I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, because now white's got the choice to probably play down here at f2. And the reason I say down there at f2, oh no, he drops the capstone. Okay, so the capstone drop there is pretty solid for a number of reasons. Number one, that capstone keeps black's capstone away from all of black's pieces. It just really cuts it off. Number two, now black's build that they were going for this whole time is cut off by white's capstone. White can come down and cut off this whole threat. So white is also building for the horizontal below that capstone. So this is a very strong move here, probably better than the f2 placement that I was thinking of. And the reason I was thinking f2 placement was because you've got this building towards the vertical, and you'd be cutting off black going for that horizontal. But I think this capstone placement is a lot better. A lot better. All right, white continuing to build. Continuing to build but then black makes the threat in order to stop that white comes down with the capstone. This doesn't completely destroy black's threat down here. Black can still build below, but this playing here means that if black does decide to build here below, he probably wants to start it at either D1 or E1. And the reason for that is because white can build at E1. Yeah, probably E1 here, and then at F5, and then make that vertical attack threat right away. White's in a pretty solid position here. Black isn't out of the game or anything, but I really like white's position more. White's also going for this horizontal here at the same time. So there's a lot going on for white right now. Black has very little to fall back on, so black's got to do something to really come back into this. All right, black building down at C1. This is pinning white's capstone right now. White can't come up onto D3 before placing at A4. But I imagine white's just going to play at A4 here to make that threat. I still like the E1 eventually for that. Maybe F5 before E1 if it comes out, but he does play at A4. And that A4 placement really sets this up for a horizontal line coming up onto D3 with the capstone. Would be a road here. So black's got to do something to stop that. And he has to make a capture. There's no placement that would work here. Can't drop a wall or anything like that. He's got to make some sort of capture. He does it with the capstone, which is surprising. Surprising for sure. White can fill in here at F3 and renew the threat right away. Yeah, F3 would renew immediately with that exact same move, and he does do that. And I will point out that white still has the opportunity to go for a vertical as well, playing up at F5, F1, throwing the capstone right all the way to F2. And now black probably bringing D3 to the right here. That seems to make sense to me. It cuts off white's ability to make that connection off to the side at that F3 point. So if you come right, and it's also that stack is protected by the capstone. So if white captures it, black can come down with the capstone to capture that. Now, white from here can do a number of things. Can switch gears, go for the vertical like I was talking about earlier, or white could decide to drop a wall here to try and capture this, and that would make it so black's capstone couldn't capture here and smash. White could also just potentially drop a flat here. A flat at D3 could be okay. But yeah, I think F1, F5, those are good. He does go for the flat here. Now, the flat's fine. I don't think it's great, but I think it's fine. And the reason for that is because you've got white going potentially for a vertical here, but also still keeping that horizontal alive. Now, black has a few options. I like D1 here because black has finally set it up so white is not making a threat. Black can make his threat by placing at D1. Yes, it's easily cut off, but he's got some options based on what white does to stop it, and he wants to get more flats on the board, and that's the way to do it right now is probably to place at d1 and force white to make some moves that they don't want to make. Though I am worried a little bit because if he does do d1 and white, for example, plays a flat at e1, that would stop the threat right away. But then if black were to place at f1 or something, e1 comes left and then works on that vertical for white while also cutting off black's threat. Black decides he does not want any part of white making this road over here, so he's going to drop a wall. I think that's an incredibly strong move here for black, because if he comes down onto d3, that cuts everything off for white. White is screwed there, and white can't come up and smash on d3 with the capstone, because then he leaves behind a road for black. Yeah, Will in the chat saying that f5 could be taken, f1 could be taken to go for this vertical still. And that's kind of what white's left with after this wall placement at d4. It's a tough one. And I will point out that alion02 has been taking a lot less time than he normally takes in these beginning games. Typically, alion02 takes a lot of time in the early game and will be very low by the end of the game. Ali doesn't quite take as much time. He takes quite a bit less time, in fact, but they are pretty close to even in terms of time spent right now. And I think that shows just how difficult this has been for black to stay in the game here with such a dominating performance from alion02 playing as white. Will is spitting out whole lines off to the side of what he expects to happen. We're not going to go 4 moves deep on guessing what we're going to see here, because it's been probably 2.5 minutes since black dropped that wall, and white hasn't made a move yet, which means we could see something unexpected. But he's dropping d1. Interesting. So d1 does a couple things here. D1, number one, blocks black from playing d1 for the threat, which I think is probably what his first thought was here. Number two, it works for that vertical line that white's going for. Granted, that vertical line is toast as soon as that wall comes down. But I think black could play at e1 here. Now, black playing at e1 works for them potentially capturing over to make this threat in the horizontal direction down here below, but it also works for black building this line vertically up towards e6 and just kind of continuing on, because that's 4 in a row there. That works for that as well. So I think that was a pretty solid move, but I think black is probably going to play at e1 here. It makes a lot of sense to me. Ooh, tricky. So white could do something tricky. If e1 is placed, white could try. Okay. I will say that All right, white playing again at b5, just really threatening this vertical line. I think this is where we're going to have to see black come down with this d4 wall. I don't know what black's going for here. White's got a lot of power really driving this when black could have been doing this before. What the play is here for black besides dropping that wall down. And I don't know why he's been avoiding dropping that wall down. Again, avoids dropping the wall. It instead brings over a flat. Now this flat is to white. That's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know what black's why black is avoiding bringing that wall down. Okay, so Pluto in the chat saying that if black brings the wall down, white brings the capstone left onto c2. All right, I can see that. White now shifting gears, going for the top, playing at d6. Now, I think it should have been an e6 because e6 works towards black's vertical here. And black can play at e6 to hold this off and also to work for their own vertical. So I think that opens things up a little bit for black. And white immediately drops that at e5, knowing that that was going to be played. Black probably needs to play something like at d5 here, or maybe at f5. White's got a lot of power right now, and black's, I feel like a few moves ago, black kind of let them run away with things when they didn't need to. Black does fill in at d5. White likely to play at b6. The b6 placement makes a lot of sense here. Okay. But white may not play at b6. If he does, okay, does play at b6, this is the threat. I'm guessing black comes right with d5. So d5 right onto e5. That makes a vertical tack threat for black. Yeah, I think d5 right makes a lot of sense here. We are seeing Ali come lower on time, kind of catching up with alion02's time down below 9 minutes. Ali just coming up on 10. Yeah, it might be tempting to bring that capstone up, but if he brings the capstone up, I don't think that works for him at all. I think he wants to make the d5 right. After that, after d5 right, it's tough to say how that would come out. What would be White's play to that? Would they do a capture war on e6? Okay, so he does do d5 right. Now here, if white decides to capture over onto e6, uh, white would win the capture war until black throws the capstone up onto e6. So does black want to capture up with e5 right now and then bring the cap up? Or drop a wall here? Because this is attack threat right now for white. Drops a flat instead. Okay, that also works. Makes me a little nervous though, because it is a flat there. That's a little bit tricky. A little bit tricky. Okay. So white, does white play at d5? White playing at d5 makes a lot of sense here because it would renew the threat. I guess you would see c5 right as a response. No, ignores it completely. This is building the attack threat in the other direction now. Uh, so going for the vertical here, white can come down with c4 or right with b3 to make that road. So here is where black can come down or left with this wall to stop it. Yeah, down or left with the wall will stop that. Um, Even coming down with c5 would stop it. But he does have to stop this right now because, oh goodness, he comes left with the wall. I think that's a good play. Now d3 coming left opens up a d4 placement for black, and d4 is a road threat coming down onto d3. This horizontal has not been a thing for a while, so that is something that that looks good. So I like that he brought it left because that still keeps this alive instead of keep running it down. And then if he plays here at d5, this is really great here. So black playing at d5 means it's a vertical threat down here, right? Yes, that it does. But it's also a vertical threat here because black can throw the capstone left and smash c4. So this d5 spot is so strong and so powerful. That's why people like Pluto the Brave are saying white needs to drop a wall here at d5 just to really mess that up, because that is not something that you want to run into here. That d5 spot, the double threat, yes, you can cut it off, but it's really good, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want black to get that now. That's good. That's good. So let's see if white spots the potential for the double threat and shuts that down. See, this is why I really like watching Ali play specifically, is because he'll set up double threats and things like this fairly regularly, and it's really fun to watch him come up with this sort of thing. I mean, white can play a flat at d5 to make a threat, but I don't like that very much because that can just get captured. The reason why a wall at d5 works really well for a number of reasons. Number one, because it cuts off black from playing at d5, but also that wall can come right and capture onto e5 and liberate that captive. Yeah, so he does drop the wall with a much safer move here, and yeah, I think that was ultimately the best play. Now, what black can do to keep white from capturing onto this stack right away is to come left with d6. If he comes left with d6, that's a smash threat. Oh no, he drops at d4. Dropping at d4 is a threat now. Coming down with d4 minus would be a road, so white's got to stop that now. And if he comes down with the wall, black just plays in at d5. That's good. That's good. I forgot about the d4 placement that I was looking at earlier because of how good the d5 was. Okay, he brings the capstone left. He's finally moved that capstone. It is no longer in a completely pinned position. So now, do we see black fill in at d2? Makes a lot of sense to me because, okay, no, he's just making a threat. He's just making his tack threat. And I like this because he's going for this vertical. If he comes right with d6, that's a road. But if white defends up here somehow, like coming right with this, it doesn't work because he can fill in at d5. So white comes right with this or something. Um, yeah, this is the vertical threat, but also he's building towards this horizontal at the bottom. This is really, really smart play from black here. Uh, black has set this up to work in a lot of different ways. Especially, this is especially strong because we saw white in such a dominant position for so much of this game, and in these past few moves, black has shown us how quickly that can devolve into a strong position for black. Once you set things up in motion just right, you can get things to work your way. Really, really clever play. Now, does he play at d2 here since that wall has come up? Okay, so the wall coming up was a really strong play here. Um, I think that was probably the right move because it cuts off black's ability to make that vertical threat up there. Sure, it cuts off your own ability to make a vertical threat. Ooh. But if black does do d2, white can come right with the capstone stack onto d2, and that threatens their own horizontal threat by smashing all the way up here at d6. I'm pretty sure that would have enough. So be 3 underneath. So 1, 2, 3, smash. Yeah, it would be just enough to come up there and smash. That would be good. But yes, it would be. You'd be able to see it for sure as black, but that can be tricky. And so this is black making a threat. I did not mean to zoom out. Black making a threat. Oh, white doesn't bring the capstone right to make that smash threat. Instead, brings this c1 left to make this vertical threat here. And this vertical threat is either placing at b2 or coming left with d3. Either of those works to make that vertical threat. So black probably needs to move this wall left onto b4. Yep, does bring a wall left on b4. Now we'll take a look at the time here. alion02 down just to about 4 minutes on the clock. Ali just below 8 minutes. So that is a tricky spot to be in when you've got almost 4 minutes between you. If you're Ali, at least. I mean, if you're alion02 at least. If you're ali, you're doing all right because you're basically 4 minutes up. White does fill in here, which I think was the sensible option. And if you don't really think about it, that's kind of like an automatic play almost. You don't want black to get that position, and it can only help you out from there. So black, I'm looking at both players right now, and it seems like it's gonna be really tough for either of them to get a road anytime soon. You'd have to get some pretty heavy chaos to happen for that to work out. And so if we do take a look, and so I think that play at b2 is really strong for black. It keeps white from building around and getting around that wall on the left hand side. One thing that we're seeing though is that black is up by 2 flats right now, with komi, of course, 2 flats. I think here you might do d3 left. So d3 left is attack threat in the vertical direction. It also allows you to liberate a captive here, and you could potentially toss it right or something like that. But d3 left, I feel like works pretty well. You can't bring the capstone up anymore because now white's capstone is pinned where it is, at least vertically. So it can move left or right and it's fine, but if it moves up or down, it's toast. So here, I guess white's just building around the wall instead of making that capture, gonna leave the capture for later. Okay, plays at a3. That makes sense because he's going for that vertical here along this side. What is the play here for black? Black's kind of run out of options here to go for threats. Black can play at d1. Ooh, I like playing at d1 for black. Um, reason being is you can come left onto c1. And coming left onto c1 makes your tack threat. And keeps that pinned. Okay, I see what black's doing. Black's playing at f5 so he can come up onto f6 and make a threat in the vertical direction, which is pretty strong. But white's going to be able to make a threat first by playing at a5. So white does have momentum here, and black's going to have to deal with that threat. I don't know how black's going to deal with the threat, but they can in a number of different ways. I think, though, that if white wants to make the threat, they probably want to do d3 left here. Now, d3 left works making the threat. It comes left here, makes that connection there and also there, but instead plays at a5. I think d3 left was the better play here, but he does go for the a5 instead. And black captures left. Captures right with b1. Now white's capstone is no longer pinned. No longer pinned. So white's capstone can come down onto c1. I think black sort of blundered that and thought that white's capstone would still be pinned after that capture, but it isn't. What is he going to do now? Because that capstone coming down is bad news for black. it is bad news for black. He can use that capstone stack to make some positive flak on differential moves, capture other stacks. He can come down here, then capture back up onto c3, liberate those captives, make positive flak on differential moves, cut apart these threats down here. Like, that gives white a lot of power down there. But white is running low on time, down below 2 minutes, about a minute and a half now on the clock for white, whereas Ali has 6.5 minutes. So a 5-minute buffer is what Ali's got, and he made that quick move. I'm not sure that that was the right. Oh, but white doesn't go for the c1. All right, what's the play here to make this work? Because if black plays at b1 here to make the threat, white can spread this down, recover that, and then not be worried about black making that threat still. If he plays at b1 or a2, that's basically the same. Plays at b1. Now white's going to spread this capstone stack down, take 4c3 minus 1, 3, and that cuts off the threat and recovers this captive here. That's the obvious move, and I think the only move besides bringing f3 down. But he does make that capstone spread. This capstone spread also is attack threat for him by placing at c3 or capturing on c3. This is not looking great for black anymore. I feel like that was not the move you would make. The b1 right move was not the move to make here. It really messes him up. Black's got to drop a wall here at c3 if he wants to stay alive, basically. He can bring this wall stack up on b5 or something, but then you'd be having 3 under there, and that's pretty risky to have. He can come up with b2. Yeah, it's not a great position anymore for black. Black was doing really well, but I think that one move there of b1 right really messed him up. Yeah. I'm not sure what the play is here for black. Black is in a lot of trouble right now. Drops the wall. Okay. That's the only thing I could think of that would work. I was trying to think if there was another way besides dropping a wall, but that's basically it. But now, unfortunately, if you're black, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so this is a 7 stack. So he can only make a +2 move with this capstone. Can't make a +3 move, but he can make a road threat, and that's exactly what he's doing. He played here at a2. Now he's got a connection from b6 all the way down here. If he throws this capstone left all into a1, that would be a road. Black sees that, comes up with a1 onto a2, cuts that off. White's still in a good position. White can come left with a +2 move onto b1, and that's a road threat in the vertical direction again by coming left with c2. Or, to make it even stronger, it could come left with all... Oh no, can't come left with all 6. If he comes left with all 6, then it leaves behind a black, and black can come up with c1 and make the road. So if he comes over, makes a +2 move, that's a road threat in the vertical direction again, and a +2 move, which he needs because white, I believe, is down in flats. Let me take a look. 14 for white, 14 for black. So it's even right now. But now if we take a look at the time, Alion's down to 30 seconds on the clock. Ali's got 5 minutes on him. So alion02 is going to have to play pretty quickly for the next several turns if he's going to make this work. He comes right instead. This is threatening that vertical road. Smashing up here on d6 would be a road. So this is going to be a tricky one. Black didn't... Oh, black did see it. Black's able to come up with f6 to cut that off, also making his own vertical threat. Really, really great move here. I think he was waiting for white to make that move so he could make this one. He was waiting for a threat to do that. Black comes over onto e1 to cut it off. Totally works. Black probably going to play a d1 or f1. I think d1 works better. The reason d1 works better is because then you can come left onto c1, capture that. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like d1 better than f1 here. But no, instead... Okay, that was quick play. Quick play from alion02. I got to go back. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, it comes over, black plays at f5, and then white throws the capstone up. This is a vertical attack threat now for white. White can throw this over onto c3 and make a road. Black, I think black should like either capture left with d2 or throw e2 left capturing onto c2. Or capture right with b1. I like capturing right with b1 actually better. Yeah, capture right with b1. I like that a lot because that cuts off the vertical threat that white wants to make and makes the horizontal threat down below. Actually, no. Oh no, the better move. The better move I think was throwing e2 left. Um, and the reason I say that is because throwing e2 left is the vertical threat and also the horizontal at the same time, and I think that was such a strong move that would be very easy to miss, especially with Alion on solo time. I think that would have been the move. And again, I'll point this out. So if he takes 2e2 left 1-1, that makes this vertical threat here. But also he's got 2 on this. He can bring one of them up onto d3 to make the vertical threat. And so that would have worked out really nicely. But not Tinue or anything, but it would have been a really good move, especially with Alion solo on time. But now we've got Alion with a very tall stack here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So no matter what he does, he's leaving behind a black flat behind this capstone. Leaving behind 2 black flats under that capstone. So this is going to be a tricky one. Smart play from black to play there at d1. So what he's doing is he's setting up to be able to capture onto c2 here. Now, if he captures onto c2, white can't bring the capstone left to recover it because he'd be leaving behind too many black flats, because 2 black flats here means the black can come up with that last one to come up. That's a smart play. Will saying a1 here works for white. Yes, a1 here does work for white. It makes that threat, forces black to do something about that vertical threat. Goes for it. Black throws it left, makes a +2 flat count differential move. Let's take a look at the flats here. Okay, so 14 for white, 14 for black. Tricky spot to be in. Black now dropping another one. This now makes it 15-14 for black. White probably wants to capture over and then eventually recover these for some positive flat count differential moves. What's the play? What's the play? Comes down with the capstone. I was thinking about that, but I don't think that works out great up here. But this is a threat. I think what white's going to do is come down with d3. So d3 minus. Yeah, d3 minus happens. Black is running out of play. I don't think he wants to self-smash on c3. Was looking at that option. Okay, white now has not a threat, but is going to be able to do some damage with that. Black's probably going to want to come left with the capstone here. But if he does come left with the capstone, the white capstone can come left and leave behind flats. No, he comes up with D1. This is a horizontal threat and a vertical threat. Oh, that's smart. That's clever. But white can come right with C2, and that's totally fine. There's no issue with white coming right with C2. And then now coming down with that unpins this capstone. The capstone can come left now. Doesn't need to. Comes up with the wall. This is a really tricky position. White might be winning this. Yeah, so white comes left with that wall, and then come left with this wall on C3, and that'll cut off the vertical. Oh no, he comes up first. Oh, that's a smart play, because he comes up first with that, so he could come left with the wall. Oh, this is really good play from white. White's just ferociously guarding this flat count differential, trying to stay ahead up on flats here, and able to do that with this huge stack, able to spread this upwards. It's going to be really strong. White filling in, trying to run down flats, got 3 reserves left. 13 for white, 11 for black. Black's got to do something to get some flats back, because if he just starts placing, the game's over and alion02 wins. He needs to recover this, basically, with the capstone. That's his play. I guess if he places at... No, yeah, he had to come left with that capstone to be able to smash this. But now if he smashes, he gives away a road. So he can come up with this wall. No, coming up with the wall doesn't work, because then this spreads left to make a road. Does he have an option here? What is the play? If he places C1 and then comes left, no, he doesn't have enough, because white can just flat out. I think this might be Galet, which is a forced flat win. Okay, he does that, but now if he smashes, he gives away a road still by coming left, and now there's already a threat. Yep, white wins 14-11. Man, I was so sure black had that in the bag at the end there, but white came back from that position. I think there were a couple mismoves from black, but overall, really excellent play from both players. So congratulations to alion02 for winning game 3. Now there are still more games to play. This is definitely not decided yet. It is now 2-1, and we're going to be playing game 4 here in a minute. But again, really well played to both players. That was a phenomenal game to see both of that back and forth. We saw white dominating in the beginning, and then black felt like it was in the bag, and then ultimately comes out on top with that flat win. That is something that Ali has said that he struggles with, is end games with flat count things. He struggles with it a lot, and so that is something that maybe alion02 took to heart and and tried to get to work for him. But really great play. Thanks everybody for watching, and be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be right here on playtac.com or over on the Discord server itself, playing asynchronously. We even have a map of players where they live in general locations, so you can play with them in person if you want to. But that is all for today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.